Man, it is good to have theme music, I tell you what. We are Two Fat Guys Talk. My name's Carlos.
This is Dave.
There are going to be spoilers. There's going to be offensive content, so this is your content warning that there might be offensive stuff in here. Dave, when did we stop calling apothecaries pharmacies? Start calling apothecaries pharmacies.
Thank
Clearly,
you.
I need the services of my local apothecary.
Yes, you do. I would say that probably happened in late 1800s, maybe the early 1900s.
Because I still kind of wish they were called apothecaries. I think the word apothecary is so much better than pharmacy, even if it's a little harder to pronounce.
I think it just kind of harkens back to an earlier, more primal time.
I just kind of want to go to my local apothecary and have them be like, hang on, let me put my pet project to turn everyone on Earth into zombies aside and fulfill your cold medicine prescription.
Eye of newt, wings of a bat, giant glowing cauldron in the middle.
Yeah, I want to take an eyeball of a newt, and I wanted to cure my hemorrhoids.
Wow, that was a weird opening.
No, I just...
I would have to mandate, if I did have an apothecary in my area, that the moment you open the door, it does have to have a witch shriek.
Yeah.
Would have to have some sort of glowing apparatus, maybe a witch's brew happening.
Sure. Oh, no, there must be a brew. There must be a brew going.
Oh, boy.
If I'm not in danger of being thrown into that cauldron, like that boss fight in Darkest Dungeon, it's not a real apothecary. Dave, what have you been playing?
I've been playing a combination of Borderlands 3 and anime Dark Souls, also known as Code Vein. And Borderlands I have long since finished with a group, and that was fun. That took about a week of evenings and weekends to get through. Good game, but has the same problems as every Borderlands game in that the more players you have, the more things to interrupt the fucking storyline, different chats to happen, and some people just won't shut the fuck up. So, playing through a second time on my own, so I can actually get the entire full storyline without things being cut off. Code Vein, though. I had this on my list to pick up, and then completely forgot about. And then I see a splash screen come up on Steam saying, Code Vein comes out tomorrow, pre-order. I'm like, what? What do you mean it comes out tomorrow? Go through, and I've been having a blast with it. It's like if Dark Souls actually gave a fuck about storyline and wanted you to give a shit.
If Dark Souls had titties, is how I've heard that described.
That too. I will not... Art also has one of the best character creators outside of City of Heroes.
City of Heroes had a pretty robust character creation system.
And honestly, so does Code Vein. I was impressed.
I want my nose to be pointy and hook upwards.
Even to the point that the clothes that you've got, you can color individual pieces of clothes, different shades, colors, everything else. I'm really impressed. And if at any time you get bored of your look, you go up to the magic mirror back at home base and you change how you look. And you can save presets. Good job.
Two replies to that. A, I hope the McElroy brothers do that game on a future Monster Factory. And two, I read an article headline, I think it was the Hard Drive, about how a local boy goes to his hairdresser and asks for a longer haircut.
But no, I mean, I've really got... I can't state enough that, I mean, Code Vein is really... It's brighter than most Dark Souls players would want it. I mean, it actually has the color green in it. Oh my god. But the way you do your character class, you're not locked into a certain class like you are in Bloodborne or in Dark Souls. You can change these things on the fly to different character classes if you want to go more magey for this fight, or you want to, even to the point that the longer you're in a class and you use those abilities, you can actually use those passive and active abilities on other classes, building a more complex character. I see it as an evolution of the Dark Souls license, really. You can go back to being the whole dark and gritty thing, but like, I cared more about the characters and the setting in the first 20 minutes of Code Vein than I ever gave a damn about inside Dark Souls itself. Bloodborne, I felt, gave me more to actually care about, but Code Vein is just a little bit more. They're willing to give information to set the setting and why you should care and everything else. It's not, having to get little pieces of information and little corpse information to put together this giant narrative that, don't get me wrong, Dark Souls has a story. It's just unfortunate you have to put in hundreds of hours to try and put everything together to try and actually make a full story.
Which is, I don't think that's a wrong way to do a story. No. But it's not everyone's cup of tea. I appreciate that.
I need more to keep me going.
That's fair.
What have you been playing?
What have I been playing? A couple things, actually. I've been playing a lot of Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1 and 2. Now, in addition to having very faithful recreations of ports of the old games without any of the trouble that the old X Collection had with stuff like emulation and enemies not behaving correctly, in addition to not having those problems, these games have the X Challenge mode, which is a completely new game, effectively, that even has a new armor sprite for Mega Man X in his PlayStation appearance sprites, so Mega Man X 4, 5, and 6, that X sprite. Okay. He's got a new armor. X Challenge puts you through challenges where you have to fight 2 of the bosses from the series at the same time. Oh. For example, you might think that Chill Penguin is an easy fight, but how good are you at fighting Chill Penguin when you also have to fight Frost Walrus at the same time?
Ouch.
Or the particularly infuriating combination that hung me up and is one of the earlier stages for some reason of Neon Tiger from X3 and I know him as the Skyver, but now he's Spiral Pegasus because they took out the Guns N' Roses names for the X5 Mavericks.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate.
Suddenly, it's interesting because some of these are individually easy enough fights, and then together they just run interference for each other in a way that is completely organic and infuriating, but a lot of fun. And you play as X, and you get before you tackle each series of 3 challenges, you get to pick 3 special weapons from a list, and that list always includes the weaknesses for the monsters you're going for, but that's not always the best choice. Yeah. Because you have a lot of health in this mode, but so do the enemies. So fights that normally ended very quickly because of a low enemy health bar, like, say, Shield Sheldon from Mega Man X6, for anyone who remembers him, well, suddenly you have to put up with him for a lot longer because he has a bigger health bar. It has been a really fun mode, and it even gives you things to like that you normally don't get to do. Like, one of the fights is Iris and Double from Mega Man X4. And Mega Man X doesn't normally fight Iris. That's a 0 fight. So you have to figure out how to piece that one together. And there's a special surprise there, too. A few surprises in this mode. It reeks of a lot of effort, and it makes me hopeful that these collections sold well enough to prompt Capcom to do a Mega Man X9. Now, we are recording this on the Saturday that New York Comic Con is happening. So if something was announced today, it's not going to be covered in this episode. So I've also been playing the Dragon Quest series. My run through them is continuing. I've been on 3 for a while because it's a really long game.
It is.
I finally found all the orbs. I went to the underworld, which, plot twist, is Alefgard from the first 2 games. I bought Falcon Blades for my characters because even though it doesn't have as high attack power as the late game weapons, it attacks twice, which instantly makes it the best weapon in the game. And my intrepid crew of 4 ladies has been tearing through Alfgard, so I've been having a lot of fun with that. I really only got into Dragon Quest because I was looking for mobile RPGs that weren't fucking gacha games.
Yeah.
But since I didn't really play the series before, this has been great. And when I'm done this, I'll move on to 4. So
glad you're finally playing through them. I mean, I played them back in the NES days. I played the DS or 3DS or just Game Boy Advance versions, going back far enough, of almost all of them. In fact, the only game I haven't played is 10, because that's the online version that we never got.
That's right. Yeah, it's I'm gonna keep going through them, so I'll keep the podcast listeners and you posted on my continuing journey through Dragon Quest, which I have been enjoying.
I can't wait for you to hit 4. Because for me, for the longest time, I thought 4 was the best that series ever hit. However, as time has gone by, I have to admit that 5, 6, and 9 are very strong contenders. Now 11 is also a decent contender.
When you said 9, did you mean 8? 8 was the one that was originally on PlayStation 2?
Well, 8, yes, but I was more focused on the mobile ones at that point.
Oh, okay.
5, 6, and 9 were all mobile games, whereas 7 and 8 were PlayStation games. PlayStation...
Oh, you're counting Nintendo portables as mobile.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I'm like, Dragon Quest 9, this is still not released on Android, so I'm not sure what you're talking about there, but no, I was confused, sorry.
No problem. Because I played them all in their natural habitats, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I haven't played the phone mobile ports of these games. Don't know how I'd like them necessarily.
They all control really well.
I know when 4 got its 3D...
3DS?
Well, no, not the 3DS. When it got its DS copy of it, they added in the whole 3D rotation and everything else, which definitely added a couple interesting new things to it.
I've seen the screenshots for 4, 5, and 6, and they look like they do even more than what the mobile ports of 1, 2, and 3 are.
Probably.
Which, by the way, you can get on Nintendo Switch now.
Yeah.
Which is funny. I've also played through River City Girls with Poe, and I'll totally play that with you should you get the game.
I will be.
Anyone who liked Double Dragon Neon and has a buddy to play with should definitely pick this up because it's by Way Forward. Like Double Dragon Neon, there's a lot of awesome vocal music that is super good. Fantastic banter. The banter you can even hear playing alone, so that one weakness of Neon is no longer there. It super strong mechanics with a little bit of jank. It's definitely a River City game, though. You go collecting money, visiting shops, grabbing bodies, hitting enemies with other enemies, fighting a Bobo as boss number 4.
They had me sold it Way Forward.
A bunch of Double Dragon Neon characters are in the game. Billy and Jimmy, voiced by Dan Avedon and Eagle Raptor, respectively, have dojos. You fight a Bobo. Skullmageddon is in the game by his voice actor, whose name I forget, Pat Seltzman, I think.
And this gives me a little bit of hope that we'll see a Double Dragon Neon 2.
Yeah, I would love to see Double Dragon Neon 2. In my head, I have a dream version of that game, but... And finally...
With playable Marion.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And finally, I have been playing the shit out of Tetris 99 because I really enjoyed Tetris 99. I got my 4th win. I still don't have any Invictus wins under my belt, though. I would love to get a win in Invictus mode, but Invictus mode is really, really challenging. A lot of good players in that mode.
Definitely been playing a much more varied amount of games than I have recently.
I'm also in between full-time gigs and doing freelance stuff, so I have a little bit more time. But yeah.
Okay, let's get to the controversies and other things that we've come up with over the past little bit.
Yeah, we were supposed to record this a week ago, and then it's actually a real tragic incident. a Minotaur got loose in Dave's like recording setup here and completely gored his computer, and as a result his computer almost didn't boot, but it did lose some stuff, and we ended up having to patch up a lot of things. We had to seal the Minotaur in the labyrinth. We got lost in the labyrinth. And we finally made our way out, and now we're here to record. So let's get to this topic list.
It's been a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start with Call of Duty.
Oh? What happened to Call of Duty?
Locking a game mode away to one system for a year.
Which mode is that?
It's one of the survival modes, but PlayStation only for 1 year.
Okay. What are we talking about? Specifically, what about this are we going to chat about? Because my answer, I'll tell you what I'll say right now. Capitalism is garbage. That's why it happened. All right. What's your take on it?
Well, I don't play Call of Duty games, so I really don't have any real love for the game. It doesn't really hurt me. I don't have a horse in this race. But this shit has to end. Like, this is bullshit. And it's getting worse and worse with... Of course, this is Activision. And...
The least evil company, right?
No.
I did not have a straight face saying that.
They've been doing this in Destiny 2 for a while. Actually hiding dungeons and modes for 6 months to a year, different high-end weapons to PlayStation for a year. As gamers, we can't let this continue happening. Do not support this bullshit. I'm not going to say boycott the game, because boycotts don't work, because people don't... Like the recent Borderlands 3 being on the Epic only store for a year. Everybody cried boycott, and it sold better than it's ever sold before. So, crying out for boycotts don't work unless everybody's on the same page. We're gamers, so nobody's ever going to be on the same page on this. But we cannot support this shit, because when you're buying a game, you should have the same game as the next person, outside of cosmetics.
Or other system-specific concerns, like the Switch version might not be as pretty, for example.
I'll get there on the next one.
Sure.
But seriously, this is something that we as gamers, we need to stand up against and say enough is enough.
I think there should be a lot of gaming-related laws to prevent stuff like this, like about how, different versions of the game getting different modes. But at the same time, is this government overreach? I recently heard that there's a law in British Columbia that if you drive on the highways in winter, you have to have winter tires. It's mandated by law now.
Yeah.
And when I think of that, I think government overreach. I think this is maybe going a little too far in lawmaking. But I would also love a law that prevents predatory loot box practices, or prevents Blizzard from banning people who use exploits in Blizzard's game engines to get ahead, and then Blizzard's like, no, that's cheating, even though the game let you do it. Maybe there should be a law that prevents different versions of the same game from having exclusivity, but the issue, though, there is that while capitalism is allowed to thrive, we have these different platforms, and there's going to be different bonuses and exclusives, right? What about bonuses that can't go to other platforms? Like, say, Soul Calibur 2, the GameCube version, having Link. Like, obviously Nintendo's not going to let Link appear on the Xbox version of that game, so that it had Spawn, and as a PlayStation bonus, they got Heihachi.
PlayStation got screwed.
And then later, we got a version that had Heihachi and Spawn in it, but of course could not have Link, for obvious reasons. So there's concerns there. There's also the issue of, is this game mode really worth that much to people? For some people, obviously it is, right? But again, if we're going to live in this garbage capitalist nightmare that we live in, we have to accept that there's going to be stuff like exclusivity bonuses and extras and features that certain versions of games are going to have. I don't like it, but I don't think that's the most evil thing in gaming today.
Yeah, still a problem. Speaking of graphics on different systems.
Graphics!
Let's talk, and this is one that's not actually on my list, but popped up in my view yesterday.
Conspiracy!
No, this isn't conspiracy. This is just outright bullshit.
Bullshit!
And for us to be saying bullshit at that level, we've got to be talking about EA.
What did EA do this time?
This is a new low. This is a brand new low.
Okay.
So, the 2020 version of FIFA for Switch is literally just the 2019 version with no upgrade graphics and a couple slight tweaks to the roster.
So every new version of FIFA.
No. I'm not a defender of any of these sports games, but
I didn't say that entirely seriously.
But literally, that's all they're selling you for full price.
Yeah.
And this is hidden behind a single tagline on the sales page.
Which is? What does it say?
That it's literally just 2019 with a couple slight changes.
Again, laws need to prevent this if we're going to live in this libertarian nightmare we're trapped in.
Just, I saw that, and actually Jim Sterling was talking about it yesterday. And
shout out to Jim Sterling.
Shouts to that guy. I love listening to him yell at people.
He sounds like an attractive man.
Looks at him. Let's talk about the fallout from other Fallout stuff.
Oh, yeah. The Fallout 70... I forgot about this. Fallout 76.
Fungus helmet.
The mold helmet. Now you could die because of Fallout 76. For realsies, though.
So, now, to make sure that we're being completely accurate, this is not the Fallout helmet that came with the Fallout 76 Collector's Edition.
This is the Ultimate Edition.
No. This is the helmet that GameStop sold separately. It was a special edition helmet that supposedly came from a totally different factory. And the rubber and everything else, the fabric inside the helmet, when it gets moist, like let's say if you were wearing and breathing in it, could generate deadly plague fungus.
I thought it was, well, mold is fungus, right?
And the factory that made said helmet did a recall here recently, which is what has prompted all this, saying such that it could lead to mold and fungus development inside the helmet if it gets moisture.
And this can't be an issue, Dave. It's not like human beings are 90-something% water.
While Bethesda has come forward and said that the issue only affects this helmet, not sold by them, they have not said whether their helmet was made in the same factory. They have been suspiciously silent on that question.
So there are two helmets.
There's the helmet that Bethesda gave with their Ultimate Editions. The typical gray power armor headset. Or helmet.
Yeah, headset's a different thing.
And then there's the red one that GameStop sold separately. Bethesda has been asked outright, was your helmet made in this same factory? No answer.
Todd Howard laughed nervously, threw a smoke bomb into the ground, and then when the smoke cleared, had passed out from smoke inhalation. I gotta be real here. This is the kind of mistake that I think falls under the unfortunate but understandable category. This is not the same as fucking over people who ordered canvas bags with shitty bags. This is not the same as releasing a game that was clearly unfinished and even now still not issuing recalls and doing a full refund, which they should have done. This, while still adding to the Final Fantasy 76 blunder train. I call it Final Fantasy 76? Yeah. To the Final Fantasy 76 blunder train. Hey, Dave, have you checked for, like, a gas leak in this fucking place?
Yes.
Like, I'm just saying. Okay, the thing about the Dragon Quest 76 blunder train, okay, they're getting off this chain we're on. Yeah, it's definitely an item there, but of all the blunders that were all caused by greed, this one seems the most like an unfortunate accident.
And the funny thing is it being the least of the issues, this wasn't even a Bethesda problem.
Yeah, like, this is the one where I'm going to go, you know what? This is a shit happens one.
Yeah.
No other of the numerous issues surrounding Fallout 76 are a shit happens one. And again, I firmly believe Bethesda owns every single person who purchased it money.
Yeah.
Like, they really do. This should not have been allowed to happen.
Yeah, no, it's just funny how Fallout 76 keeps on coming back into the news with more issues and more product issues.
I forgot something in the stuff I was playing, now that we're talking about Bethesda. Been playing the shit out of the Doom Switch ports, Doom and Doom 2.
Uh-huh.
And now that they've finally been patched and the music is playing at the correct speed and it's not inexplicably slowing down, these ports are fantastic ports of Doom. Missing only some button customization, so that I don't have to cycle through all of my weapons and let's say I want to go directly from shotgun to BFG. I don't have to scroll wheel with L and R, basically.
Now with 50% less login to Bethesda net.
Yeah, it's optional now. If your internet's up, it'll do it. If it's not, it doesn't hassle you. And logging into the Slayers Club with it, you're in Doom and Doom 2 and Doom 3 if you happen to buy it. Gets you an individual new skin you can use in the upcoming Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
I'm debating actually getting Doom 2016 on Switch because my setup for playing that on a keyboard and mouse on my computer is not ideal. Because at the moment, I don't have a proper computer desk. I play on a couch with a lapboard, the Rocat Sova lapboard, which is super good. But because I don't sit level, it's okay in MMOs when I have to hold down the right button to pan my camera, but not okay in shooters where if I let go of the mouse and it falls, I immediately start looking down.
Up or down.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Yeah, I totally want to remedy this because mouse and keyboard is how I prefer to play these games.
Yeah.
But honestly, I've been playing my Switch a ton and I want to get through Doom 2016. I might just get it on Switch and play that just so I have done it. And then Doom Eternal, I'll see because, yeah, I don't think gamepad's the best way to play Doom games, but it still works. If I'm just going to play the story by myself and not get into a ton of custom levels like I want to with, like I used to and want to do again with Doom source ports and the original games, then I don't mind playing it on a controller or in portable mode on a Switch, to be honest.
Hey, fair enough.
And I heard good things about the 2016 port, and Doom Eternal is coming out on Switch at the same time, I think, so.
Next is... we're back to mobile games.
Oh, what have mobile games done now? Hang on. Before you answer that question, I have to blow my nose. Thankfully, the listening audience didn't hear it because of the magic of editing.
Mario Kart Tours subscription.
Hang on, let me roll my eyes.
Look.
Hang on, before you say anything.
Yeah.
We need to preface this with what I'm about to say. I downloaded and tried Mario Kart Tour. I played 2 laps of the first track and immediately uninstalled the game because it's hot garbage. And this has nothing to do with subscription fees or anything. It sucks. Now say what you're going to say.
Well, that basically is Nintendo's mobile presence on phones. They release hack job versions of games they've made, say that they're less evil because they force the makers of said ports of these games to lower the costs for getting stuff. And Nintendo, I'm going to borrow a couple things here from Jim Sterling again. But
shout out to Jim Sterling.
Jim points out that Nintendo sees their mobile phone games as advertising. That's it. They're not actually doing these games to make a shit ton of money. If they did, they wouldn't be forcing said devs to lower costs of in-game apps, purchases, and everything else, which Nintendo does quite often. They want to be seen as less evil on these things.
What kind of 2019 are we living in when a company aspires to be less evil, but still evil?
Yeah, exactly. So, the fact that 200cc is locked behind a paywall, the subscription. The fact that the game isn't that fun. I mean, you're controlling your vehicle left and right, but you going is just the game just does it for you. Getting characters and carts and everything else is basically through loot boxes.
It's a gacha game again.
It is. It totally is. And $5 a month, American? Are you kidding?
For a shitty mobile Mario Kart.
For a shitty mobile Mario Kart.
It's not even $5 a month that gets you premium modes on all Nintendo mobile games. Which, even though I would not pay for, I still think would be a much better proposition for people. It's just this. When I heard Nintendo was entering mobile games, I thought, finally, we're going to get some mobile games that are actually games.
Yeah.
And not just money-fleecing attempts.
Nope.
That's, again, the whole reason I've been playing Dragon Quest. I've been hungry for a mobile RPG, and the only good ones right now are remakes of old Nintendo and Super Nintendo games.
And that's just it. Everybody and their mother has gotten into the whole gacha systems. Now, I play on occasion. Oh, where's my phone? What the hell is the name of that one that Nintendo helped?
Dragalia Lost.
Thank you.
It has the fairy with the magnificent hips.
Dragalia Lost is the closest I can find to an actual RPG-ish game on there that isn't an old game.
I played that for a little bit. I might have continued playing it if it wasn't for the gacha stuff, because it actually handled pretty well.
And it tends to be pretty decent as far as the gacha system, but it's still a gacha game.
Yeah, and I don't want that. I tried Grand Blue as well. I went through the hoops of getting a Japanese account and side-loading the app.
Yep.
No, man, I'd love these characters and worlds in a format that I'd consume, and this isn't going to be it.
I'm hoping that, like, Nintendo has a fantastic storyline in Dragalia Lost. It's great. Would make a fantastic anime or a standalone fucking RPG on Switch. Make it happen. Just strip out all the gacha bullshit and give me a full-on RPG with that storyline. Be neat.
Once again, capitalism rewards gacha bullshit on mobile. It's all capitalism. All of it.
Yeah. This one's more for you for the next topic.
Which is?
The WoW's latest cinematics.
Okay, so spoiler alert. Okay, so Sourfang's dead. Sylvanas killed Sourfang, but he revealed her corruption to the rest of the Horde. So instead of the Alliance and the Horde clashing at Orgrimmar, only one life was lost, which was Sourfang's, which is what he wanted. He didn't want more lives lost. So it's very strongly rumored that the next expansion is doing away with the faction system. But if you're a Sylvanas loyalist, you get a different cutscene at the end, which shows that it talks more about what I've suspected since the beginning, that Sylvanas wants people on Azeroth to be undead so that they can be immune to the madness of the shadows, so that the Void Lords and their old god minions can be taken down. But Sourfang's dead, and that whole storyline happened in some gorgeous cinematics that I think you should watch, Dave.
And Blizzard cinematics have always been beautiful.
It was a touching scene of Thrall, Anduin, and the new troll guy, whose name I forget, carrying Sourfang through the gates of Orgrimmar. And the Horde not immediately trying to murder Anduin. Not that I'm sure they could succeed.
Yeah.
Sylvanas is using some kind of freaky new magic that not even the Nightborn knew what it was.
Huh. Neat.
And BlizzCon is not that far away, so we're probably going to get new expansion news. And maybe we'll see more about the game everyone's looking forward to.
Don't say
the Diablo mobile game.
That game should make itself scarce.
That game better leave before I slash its tires.
I mean, that lost Blizzard so much rep last BlizzCon. They honestly should not even show it.
We did a whole podcast about that, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
And I believe we said, there's nothing wrong with it being a mobile game, but this was kind of the wrong way to present it.
Yes, have your highlight for a PC-centric organization where your fans are largely PC-centric, have your big announcement be a phone mobile game that isn't even coming to PC.
I don't think that's even the problem. The problem is that it wasn't a PC game. The problem is it looked like shit.
Well, there's that too.
Like, I'm not big on catering to PC gamers. Present company accepted, and listeners and friends of the show accepted. I don't have a lot of respect for PC gamers, but as we've talked about before. So the fact that it didn't cater to them, I don't think was the mistake. I think the mistake was that everyone was expecting Diablo 4, and instead they gave us what appears to be a crappier D3 on mobile. And that was their big announcement.
And as I'm pretty sure I pointed out back then, BlizzCon isn't a free event.
No, you gotta pay for this shit.
BlizzCon is a premier event that you have to pay to get into. And for a company that has been PC first, console second, and has really never gone mobile before.
Except for Diablo 3, where the console versions are clearly the way to go.
And I'm not going to argue that, because I love my console versions of Diablo to death. Way superior to the PC version in every way. But for them to basically have their audience stand in front of them and basically slap them with that sort of disrespect for their time and their money, that was not cool.
We're just wondering if this is a late April Fool's joke. Oh, that guy got kicked out of BlizzCon so hard.
Anyway, moving beyond that.
Next topic.
You would actually this is kind of one of those what-if fight scenarios. Could Gordon Freeman fight Captain America if Gordon had a vibranium crowbar?
Right.
No.
You still think Captain America would win?
Yes.
I think Gordon Freeman is faster than Captain America.
I don't.
Have you played Half-Life?
Yes, I have.
I know you have.
Of course I have. No. Okay, look.
I think he's faster, he's stronger, he can carry a lot more on his person. He has armor that helps him stay healthy.
This is why I hate these sort of with
a vibranium crowbar, fucking he can actually damage the shield.
Yeah. I just think this is a really bad matchup. I think Cap wins this in the end.
You think he'll outfight Gordon? He is Captain America. His Marvel Comics history gives him a lot more feats to measure from.
Uh-huh.
And we'd have a lot more for Gordon Freeman if Valve wasn't comfortable just bathing in the money that Steam made for them instead of say, developing Half-Life 3.
Or Portal 3.
Or Portal 3. Or Half-Life 2 Episode 3. Or Portal 2 Episode 1. Or Half-Life Episode Portal.
Moving on.
Yeah, next.
Is it worth it to buy an $80 game anymore?
I'll answer this right now. If you're going to play the shit out of it, absolutely. If not, no. Should they cost $80? I don't know. Fuck, I could make there are games that really, if I had paid over $100 for them, but I still play them to death to this day, The value proposition there is still on my side.
Okay, so I worded that one in a way to get you to go down that road first.
Okay.
What I'm talking about in this one is more of the fact that every developer and their mother is going to a subscription model for their games.
Yeah.
In this Netflix games as a service kind of system, is it worth buying an $80 game anymore if you can subscribe and play the game for as long as you want? Like, Gears of War 5 is a great example of this, I feel. Like, I own every Gears of War except Gears 5. Because I don't need to buy Gears 5 for $80. I've got a subscription to Game Pass on Xbox One. I've already got it. I had it day one. In this sort of environment, why own the game anymore? Why buy it day one for $80?
I think there's a deeper conversation to have here about game ownership and more specifically game archival, which is a big issue. I don't think it's good that companies can just make games disappear or delist them. I think that there have to be laws in place that allow us to archive them the same way we do with films and literature.
I agree.
So, because we don't have that, even though I tend to be the digital games guy, people having hard copies of games is the only thing that keeps us from not having these games disappear on us, too. And that ties into whether or not it's worth buying the physical edition. The price point is what's weird. Now, we're talking 80 Canadian. A lot of these games are sold in the States for 60 American.
Yeah.
This is all subjective, and that's what makes this difficult. Like, Link's Awakening was a game I was looking forward to for Switch because I played the original and the remake of the original on Game Boy Color to death.
Yep.
On my Game Boy Advance SP clamshell, Link's Awakening I think is still in it. And I have played that game as recently as like late last year. So that remake looks like a blast, right? That is a fully priced game.
Yep.
It is not cheap. It's not like Mega Man 11 where it was reduced in price. And while it is gorgeous, barring weird performance issues that we can talk about if you really like, the fact of the matter is, every time I look at that game, I'm like, okay, I know from friend of the show, Rowan, shoutouts to Rowan and Blue, check out Platforms and Pitfalls podcast, it's great. I know from friend of the show, Rowan, that nothing new was added other than the huge visual polish and gameplay polish with the more buttons.
Mm-hmm.
So there are no new dungeons other than the Create a Dungeon feature.
Yeah.
It does have the Color Dungeon from the Game Boy Color remake, which is good. They didn't leave that out. But there's no new, bosses. There's no new final boss surprise. No post-game content. It's really just a faithful, true remake of Link's Awakening, which in and of itself is not a problem, but I look at how much it costs. And at the moment, me being in between full-time gigs, I can't just willy-nilly throw down money like that.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to throw down money, it's not going to be on a game that's just a remake of a game I can still play on my clamshell Game Boy Advance SP. So there's this subjective issue. I don't think Link's Awakening is a full-priced game. I don't think it should be. I think it should cost no more than Mega Man 11 does on release. And fuck me for Nintendo never discounting games in their entire lifetime. That's a piss off too. Every other developer, if you wait a year, you can buy a game for half price new from sometimes their digital storefronts even.
Uh-huh.
Nintendo, you're lucky if you see it go down $1. Unless there's a specific sale for a character, like the recent Mega Man sale, where I grabbed X Collections 1 and 2. Capitalist Nightmare, yada, yada, yada. Should games be that cost anymore? Honestly, that's subjective. It's up to the person buying them. If it's worth $120 to you, then who am I to argue that's worth $120 to you? You know? But Link's Awakening is not worth me spending any more than maybe 40 Canadian on. Maybe.
So half price.
Yeah. I still have to finish Breath of the Wild. I've been just exploring in that game because that game's a blast. And maybe if the Link's Awakening remake was like Breath of the Wild, where it was a full 3D world, that would make it significantly different enough. But it's not. It's just an admittedly gorgeous 2D game, Zelda game.
Yep.
That's a remake. If it was an original Zelda game, I could even justify that to myself. But not like this. No, sorry.
Fair enough. And yeah, I meant the question more of a subscription versus buying games. But again, we try and cover all the angles.
I do like that I can subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online and get a ton of NES and Super Nintendo games. I think more should be on the service than there are.
Yeah.
But I like that I don't have to buy them individually. I can play Breath of Fire 1 or F-Zero or whatever, just whenever I feel like it.
That has been nice. Let's jump around in our list here a little bit.
Jump to the list.
Apple Arcade.
They got a lot of exclusives.
Yes,
a lot of timed exclusives.
Yes.
Because I am not getting an Apple device just to play Exit the Gungeon, the sequel to Enter the Gungeon.
Uh-huh.
But I am looking forward to that as a big Enter the Gungeon mark.
Yeah. For me, it was the fact that the Shantae new game demo is exclusive to Apple Arcade.
That's right. And Way Forward also released, what was it, Spider Soars, which was a Contra-like on Apple Arcade.
That one I didn't know.
Yeah, it looks really good, and I can't wait for it to come out on literally any other platform. Because me and Apple don't get along these days.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting rid of mine too, but...
I do think it's taken a long time for Apple TV to also be a game console.
Yeah.
This probably should have happened a decade ago.
Oh, easily.
I'm surprised it didn't. But from what I hear, if you get a good Bluetooth controller, these games play really well.
Yeah. No,
sounds like Apple really put their whole ass into this, to be honest.
But it's about time, because Apple has been sitting on its name for way too long. We're Apple, and our fans will buy whatever shit we give them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the first actual value thing. I mean, and it's a good price too. $5 a month.
Yeah. If I had an Apple TV, I'd get it.
I mean...
Fucking Apple TV is the one Apple item I could see myself getting in the future.
Yeah.
Assuming I could find a cheap one. Just as a general TV and Netflix and now game console. Whatever. And even that is probably not going to happen.
The problem there is every TV's basically already doing what Apple TV does with their own stuff.
Plus... I don't think there's any Apple Arcade exclusives that I want that aren't coming out somewhere else later. So,
and that's just it. Is there timed exclusives? So we're all just basically twiddling our thumbs, waiting for it to come to, as you said, anywhere else to get. Because, I mean, Shantae is going to come to PC and console.
Absolutely.
Way Forward, Apple would have to give them way more money than Apple would be willing to give for Way Forward to make a Apple Arcade exclusive Shantae game. Like, never going anywhere else, because their whole thing is their games are everywhere.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And are way too popular for people to accept that it's only on one system. I'm kind of annoyed that the demo is locked to Apple Arcade.
It's just a demo, ultimately.
But I want to play it. It's a Way Forward Shantae game. I want to play this.
Funny enough, Apple seems to be making a lot of smart moves. The jerry rig everything durability tests of the iPhone 11 phones so far, he hasn't said too many negatives.
Wow.
In fact, he said that he's been searching for something negative to say because he famously doesn't like Apple, and he's having a hard time finding them.
Let me help him here. The fact that you can't have a third-party chip replace the battery without being annoyed by the phone. You can't replace the screen third-party without the phone warning you that it's not exclusive. The fact that Apple's still really evil as far as any third-party parts, getting to actually third-party repair groups, and they will outright lie about the fact that you can get back your data. I mean, I can go on all day.
There's a ton. And, like, you're preaching to the choir when it comes to me, Though, reiterating it for our listeners is a good idea. Because no, Apple is still evil. Fuck Apple. I'm just saying that in these two areas, Apple Arcade and the latest iPhones, it seems that they're actually flexing a bit. They're flexing some of that muscle, finally.
I'm not going to give them credit for it. I mean, if you want to hear how bad Apple products are made and how much that they try and screw third-party fix-it shops, check out Louis Rossmann on YouTube. He's actually been interviewed by both Canadian and American news networks on the right to repair movement and how Apple does lie about a great deal of third-party fixes being unsafe and everything else. Yeah, check him out. Real good person to watch for. He'll show you how to repair all your stuff. The fact that, cold solder joints are a thing. The fact that I would never buy an Apple laptop based on how I see them put together. I mean, why would you put a heatsink on your CPU and the fan that's supposed to cool it is on the other side of the board?
Yeah, it's dumb.
Anyway, I could go on that topic forever. Just check out Louis Rossmann or just check online just how bad they put this shit together.
Jerry Rig Everything is another good one. Yes. Not just for that, but also for repairing stuff. When my Nexus 5 was being my workhorse phone and lasting far longer than it had any right to before eventually being replaced by a Pixel 3a, I actually used his videos to repair it and make fixes that prevented me from spending dollars in a repair shop or buying a phone earlier than what I eventually did. So, yeah, shoutouts to Jerry Rig Everything as well. Also, very, very, I like watching his teardowns for any phone, even ones I'm not interested in, because it's fascinating to hear him talk about them and do his durability tests and try to justify his lighter tests, which he himself admits he has trouble justifying. Plus, nothing beats, the phrase of the phrase of scratches at level 6 with deeper grooves at a level 7, which seems to show up at every single one of his videos.
I loved when he started testing some security procs with locks.
Yeah. Here's how you defeat this lock immediately.
Electronic lock. And it's obvious that actual, the makers of some of the products actually follow his videos. Because they actually made a version to the gut rid of all the parts that he had mentioned.
Man, should I ever get involved in, TV production? I'm going to watch reaction videos of people I've watched reaction videos of and see how they like it.
Yeah.
Because that'll be my secret weapon. I actually listen.
Next on our list is, this is more of an announcement than anything else. Kevin Feige potentially making a new Star Wars film. Yeah. I don't think that's potential anymore. I believe he's actually he's contracted to do it.
He has done wonders with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. As I've told our group of friends in our WhatsApp chat room we all have, that not every MCU movie has been a hit. Not every one of them has been good. But more of them than not have been, and they've all been this cohesive movie universe that has just been a blast. And Martin Scorsese saying they don't count as cinema is stupid. And you should not listen to what mediocre white men too set in their ways to see anything have to say about cinema or anything. So fuck that guy. The Kevin making Star Wars movies, great. I hope this isn't being done in response to chuds being angry about The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Not only because I love both of those films, but because I like it when Star Wars films are a little less mindless and a little more challenging to think about. Especially in the case of The Last Jedi. He'll make great Star Wars films, but I hope it's not at the expense of having films like The Last Jedi.
Well, yeah, and, film critics saying that, these movies aren't cinema are such nonsense because what they consider cinema is simply the Oscar bait.
Yeah,
that's not cinema. Look, The King's Whisperer or
The King's Speech.
Horsefucker 25.
Horsefucker 25 is a masterpiece. Don't you dare.
It's just...
Yeah, like, films are subjective, but the Academy is a bunch of out-of-touch old and mostly white fogies. And it's the same thing as when fucking, what's-his-face, I think it was Spielberg, or he was talking about, Netflix films shouldn't count for the Oscars. No, it's out-of-touch old white guys who are too afraid to innovate and maybe never were that great. Just kind of being afraid that their base is finding entertainment and meaning and artfulness elsewhere. Fuck them.
Well, it's the same thing as movie critics saying that games aren't art.
Yeah, and they're wrong, obviously.
I mean, it's basically the live-action version of Old Man Yells at Cloud.
Basically. And I mean... That's also a tough trap to fall into. I know sometimes I'll look at modern games and I'll be like, back in my day, when you got a game over, you dusted yourself off and you tried again. You didn't complain to the developer. But obviously, an argument like that is more subjective, and you need to think about context, and that's the thing. Martin Scorsese was saying that they're not really cinema, they're more like theme parks. And again, this is so elitist and so snobby, and it's just an attempt to make his art, his subjectivity, more objective.
Yeah.
And when people do that, there's the only word I can describe them at is fucking clueless. They're clueless assholes.
Seeing as we're on the topic of Marvel.
Ah!
Spidey! I was right!
Yeah.
I was right!
Yeah, that was resolved in record time. I had a feeling you were going to be right. I think I even said as much.
Uh-huh.
And we're learning that it was Tom Holland who smoothed things over. I still wish it was Disney caving to Sony and not the other way around.
Well...
But...
Oh, okay, but it really was, though. When you look at the deal, Sony came out on top very much.
Sure. Look, I get it. All the old men looked at Tom Holland, they're like, look at that beautiful boy fighting for what he believes in. And what a gorgeous ass. No, mustn't think of Tom Holland's ass. Let's put Spidey back in the MCU.
Wait.
That's what they were all thinking of.
He's asking for something. Okay, we can think about this. Yes.
Asking?
Yes.
Yes,
exactly.
Why are you listening to this?
For me, not for you.
No, to our audience. Why are you?
No, they're here for me.
Go fuck yourself. Spider-Man, yeah. So...
Yeah, I did not... Honestly, I'm surprised it took that long. Because, again, they took so much time and effort to set up Tom Holland as the next Iron Man kind of persona in the movies. You don't do that and then say, bye, you can take the character back now, we're fine with it. Oh, fuck, what? Wait, our whole fourth gen kind of revolved around... Wait, did we actually do that for the end scene for this? Oh, fuck. Okay, yes, we want him back. Here, you can have 75% of the overall gross. Thank you. What, we only get him for 2 movies? Okay, we'll come back to this later. Like, again, Sony basically gets to sit back and make money. Do I think they deserved more of the cash cow? Well, it's their character. So, sure, why not? They still have to put in...
The irony is it's Marvel's character. It's just licensing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he should be public domain. I think I said this last time. He should be Spider-Man. If he was public domain, this never would have happened. But Sony and Warner Brothers fucked everyone.
Yeah, it's more Disney.
Sorry, did I say Sony and Warner Brothers? I meant to say Disney and Warner Brothers. Again, I am fading fast. Are we sure that someone hasn't like wired a car tailpipe to this room or something?
Yes, I'm sure. The carbon monoxide detector hasn't gone off.
Gotcha.
And yes, it has batteries. Well, let's circle around to that topic for a moment.
Okay.
Copyright. And when some of these characters are finally going to be in the public domain.
They never will.
Mickey Mouse will hit public domain in, is it 2022?
It doesn't matter. sometime in 2021, the government will extend that because Disney paid them.
I don't think it's going to happen this time.
It's going to keep happening until an American administration puts a stop to and reverses all of it, which they should. And then the rest of the world will follow suit. It's absolutely ridiculous that Mickey Mouse, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, all these characters aren't public domain yet. The whole reason public domain exists is because even when you create something, after your death, the world should be able to benefit from your creation. It shouldn't be just whoever succeeded you profiting from it until the end of time.
I agree.
It won't happen unless an American administration stops it. Maybe if Americans put Bernie Sanders in there and boot out the fucking Republicans, maybe. But it won't happen.
I'm actually semi-hopeful that Mickey will actually finally hit.
Hopeful is a good thing to be. There's nothing wrong with hoping that. I hope that too. I'm just saying, don't count on it. Prepare for the worst.
I'm prepared for it, but the arguments they made the last time were already... The U.S. government at the time was already like, guys, come on, this is hitting bullshit levels already. Okay, fine, we'll give you this extension. Don't come back again.
Without money. Money will win this for them every time.
I don't think another extension would fly even with the money.
It'll fly. If the administration wants that delicious Disney money, they'll do it. And they will.
Yeah.
You need an anti-capitalist in the White House to prevent it. Otherwise, it will absolutely be another public domain extension. Money will always win the day. Such is 2019. Was anybody expecting like a cheery podcast out of this? Like, are you in your car or on the treadmill listening and like, fucking Carlos depressing us all the time?
Yeah, that's why they come for me.
Yeah.
My hopeful optimism. What Final Fantasy or even non-Final Fantasy would we like to see remade in Remake's engine and combat system? So I'm guessing the remake is the FF7?
Yeah, the FF7 remake, which is looking incredible. I am so hyped for this game. Yeah, which Final Fantasy or even a non-Final Fantasy game would you want to get that treatment?
Well, it's funny because this probably will happen as part of Final Fantasy VII, but I'm kind of hoping we get the Dirge of Cerberus storyline in it.
I imagine that's probably in the cards to do not only the chapter-based original game, but also that, unless it's a time-altering sequel like Kiki and I are hoping and predicting.
Yeah, I don't see them doing it. As much as I'd love to see them do it, I think they're going for the original story. I don't see much shake-up happening.
I would love FF6 to get this treatment. I would love Secret of Mana to get it with a redub, same voice actors, but way better voice direction. And I would love to see a sequel to that game, not another Mana game, but specifically Secret of Mana after the events of the end. That's what I would like to see. There are so many games that could benefit from that style. Just about any Final Fantasy game could do it.
What was that? Dragoon.
Legend of Dragoon. Dart is Dart.
I would love to see that game redone in Remake's engine.
You know, I recently watched the speedrun of Legend of Dragoon.
Uh-huh.
And I think in my mind it looked a lot better than this. I think I remember it being a much more visually impressive game than what it really is. Sure, I guess.
Well, no. Okay, here's the thing. We grew up in the time where we were watching these games get better and better visually. But it's really not fair to compare what was that, 1994, 1996 Legend of Dragoon's graphics against Final Fantasy VII Remake. I mean, at the time, it looked amazing. But you know what? At the time, on PC back in 1990, Strahd's Legacy for Ravenloft looked amazing. But we've watched all this evolve up to almost photorealistic. So it's not fair to go back and say, well, maybe it didn't look as great as I remember. No, it looked great back then. It's just, we have moved so far ahead of it that it's like, how the fuck did I get anything out of that?
I'm not comparing Legend of Dragoon then to Final Fantasy VII Remake now.
But you can't help but compare.
I'm comparing Legend of Dragoon then to Final Fantasy VII then. And Legend of Dragoon does not look as good as I thought it did.
I'm sorry, ruby tinted glasses.
That's exactly what it is, right? It's the ruby tint. The ruby tint is like, wow, Meru has nice legs. And then you look back and you're like, wow, Meru has legs that are best described as pyramids?
Or even like Final Fantasy VII's sprite work there.
See, but those models were intentionally trying to be polygonal versions of old, like character sprites from the Super Nintendo days. That I get. FF8 didn't do that. FF9 didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they moved forward.
Sure. Yeah, but you're not wrong. There's definitely a component of things at the time. And as we all know, like most 2D stuff ages much better.
Yes.
Because of the kind of drawn appeal to that. You know, like
that's why pixel art is almost timeless.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter how far ahead, it's going to look just like it did back then. One thing you can't take away, and of course, during a speedrun you wouldn't get this, but the FMVs for Dragoon were stellar.
And that Celtic music that played during the intro, the I Had a Dream That I Could Fly song, oh my god, that is so good.
Yeah, I mean, some of the flashback war videos to Dragoon were just like, oh my god, this is awesome. Can we get more of this?
Was that our last topic?
Yeah, you had something there about Doom E4M1 being so hard.
Oh, yeah, we don't have to talk about that. That's just a brutally difficult level. Just way too hard for a pistol start. Here's a pistol and 50 bullets. There are 4 barons in this level.
Uh-huh.
Like,
levels like that remind me of why I disliked Doom 3 so much. But then again, Doom 3's design wasn't that great. Here is 3 shotgun shells, and here's 18 guys. Have fun. I've got 3 shotgun shells. The fuck do you want me to... Oh, hang on. Gun in mouth, pull trigger, done.
Dark.
Hey, you're playing Doom 3. What do you expect?
I haven't played John Romero's new Doom 1 episode Sigil yet, but I have seen it, and it is fucking gorgeous.
Yeah?
John Romero really was the king of Doom map making.
That doesn't surprise me.
Watching his maps being played makes me A, want to play them, and B, reminds me that Doom is not all run and gun. There's a certain atmospheric quality to Doom that it had. It had some levels that were definitely run fast, shoot fast, listen to the cool rock music. Yes. And some levels that are very atmospheric, with very subtle music and very kind of visual storytelling in the level that you go through and you kind of get a tale told through the level design.
Yeah.
And this is what Sigil does. It uses Doom 1... It's basically Doom 1 Episode 5, so Doom 1 monsters and Doom 1 assets, and it tells you the story of, you know, this hellscape that you're going through. And it again reminds me of John Romero, king of level design. That guy knew how to make a level look good, play well, and pace brilliantly.
And sound good.
Yeah. Like, John Romero, like, fucking, if he spent the rest of his days making Doom and Doom 2 maps, I'd be happy. But it's a shame that he never got to make JRPGs. He was a fan of Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. And when he was making Daikatana, he even said he wanted to make kind of a JRPG, but in an FPS, right?
Uh-huh.
And you kind of get the idea that had the right company picked them up after the whole Ion Storm nonsense, that maybe we'd be playing amazing RPG, like JRPG style games with a heavy John Romero influence today.
Well, I mean, I always felt that, and I remember hearing him say that, but I felt like games like Shogo started down that path.
Shogo was more FPS than RPG, though. It had an anime-esque quality to it, but it was definitely just a not Half-Life type of game.
True. See, even the crowd agrees with me.
The crowd agrees.
I think FPSs and RPGs are a little bit harder to put together. I mean, Half-Life 2 kind of... I don't even like to say that they started melding RPGs and FPSs, because really, Half-Life 2 is not an RPG.
No.
I mean, really, Half-Life 2 was and Half-Life 1 really was a developer looking at the FPS genre and saying, how do we give this a greater sense of scope and story than ever done before? And nailed it out of the park.
That's well said, because Half-Life really influenced first-person shooters. Like, when you look at first-person shooters, you can really broadly categorize them as, are they arcadey like Doom, or are they Half-Life-y like Half-Life? Whether or not they're good or bad. Halo is a Half-Life style game.
Yeah.
Doom 3 is more of a Half-Life style game.
For all of its flaws, that's where they were trying to go. And that was the least of its worries. Like, that first level where you're, pressing stuff, getting a sense of scope and story and everything else. I mean, let's face it, Doom 3 was basically kind of like a retelling of Doom 1 in the way that it was trying to present itself.
Yeah, it was like Doom 1 Half-Lifed.
Exactly.
In fact, I'll go further. It was Doom 1 Episode 1 Half-Lifed.
But, I mean, there are games that have done FPS RPG.
Mass Effect.
Mass Effect, but even going back before that, System Shock.
System Shock and System Shock 2 are more adventure games than FPS, though. It's kind of like how Metroid Prime... Like, yeah, it's an FPS, but is it, though? Like, yeah, it's that perspective, but it's far more of a Zelda-like action-adventure with the tons of auto-aiming and whatnot. It wasn't really an FPS despite being in that perspective.
I mean, this is where we start hitting with RPG elements.
Yeah.
Or because you're right. I mean, ultimately, Metroid Prime was a platform adventure game with FPS elements.
In an FPS perspective
yes.
as well. Yeah, and obviously RPG elements are often shoehorned in where they don't belong.
Yes.
Just to make games longer. Put a leveling system on someone to keep user retention and fleece more money and time out of them. Yeah, obviously that. But I mean, you can meld them easily enough. Like, you can have leveling systems in an FPS and it can still be a fun FPS and RPG. I would have loved... I say this all the time. I wish there was some kind of Chrono Trigger FPS style game, Like, I'd love to be able to go through the Undersea Palace in that perspective.
I've been playing Crystallis here recently.
The original NES game?
The original... Well, the one off of the Switch collection.
Oh, the SNK collection, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I still would love to see a sequel to that in the SNES or even would be awesome in the Breath of Fire style. Breath of the Wild, not
Breath of the Wild, yeah. Breath of Fire is a very different beast.
Yeah.
Breath of Fire. Now that I'm playing Dragon Quest, I definitely see where Breath of Fire got a lot of its influences. Even Phantasy Star, like, the moment I got a boomerang and threw it, I'm like, this is the Phantasy Star 4 boomerang animation. Like,
yeah. Dragon Quest has always been more popular of a game. I mean, they've actually shut schools down for Dragon Quest releases.
In Japan?
In Japan.
That's the thing. Like, Dragon Quest was always popular there, but can we give a shout out to Enix for making actually really solid English translations of these games when they first released them? Because when I was seeing speedruns, I'm like, there is very few typos and bad grammar in this NES game. Enix really put their whole ass when they localized something.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I think they localized... The only Dragon Quest games they didn't initially localize were 5 and 6 on the Super Nintendo. Yeah. Along with the 1, 2, and 3 remakes on Super Nintendo. But up in Dragon Quest 1 through 4 and then 7 onward, barring 10, got released here, right? Like...
And we did eventually get 5 and 6.
We did eventually, yes. And stuff like Ogre Battle and the Soul Blazer series and everything except Terranigma, which never got released. This was all pre-Square Enix, right? They actually had a presence here, even if Dragon Quest was not as popular here as in Japan.
Yeah.
Japan loves them their Dragon Quest. They must have been very happy when Hero was announced for Smash, whereas here it was more like, oh, cool, we get Android 17 and Goku. That's fun.
Well, and I think the rampant popularity of Dragon Quest games appeared with Dragon Quest VIII.
Yeah, I was going to lead to that. I remember playing the demo of that back on PlayStation 2, and I was like, wow, this game is actually freaking awesome. I don't know why I didn't end up playing the full one, but I can't wait till I get to it. Often tops the best Dragon Quest games list from when I see them. And
it has a reason. I mean, it was the first to use in-game Akira Toriyama art.
Mm-hmm. In full polygonal.
Full polygonal. I mean, your character looks like Goku-ish.
Kind of more like Gohan, but...
Okay, fair enough. But I mean, you do the whole... When you pep up, you're doing the Super Saiyan... yellow hair stuff going on, and you actually get the spiky golden hair.
When the enemy makes you dance, you dance.
Yeah. So, I mean, 8 looked and played amazing. I mean, I have my problems with that game, but they have nothing to do with the combat system or the graphical awesomeness. It comes down to the usual, okay, well, you're giving me an extra dungeon, oh my god, the grind. But that's Dragon Quest in a nutshell.
I mean, yeah, they're JRPG-ass JRPGs. So,
yes.
Not much that can be done about that. But even stuff like Dragon Quest Builders, I've been seeing good things about too. So, this solid series. And I remember when you played Dragon Quest Warriors, I remember thinking to myself, this is almost my ideal Dynasty Warriors game. I gotta pick this game up, and I never did. So maybe I need to remedy that sometime here in the future.
And Dragon Quest Warriors, again... Gotta quote Jim Sterling on it.
Shout out to Jim Sterling. Hat trick shout out. Jim Sterling, check your email for a prize package that's going to include
nothing.
Signed autograph pictures of me and Dave just nude for some reason.
Dude.
No, you're doing this. By the way, we're not honoring this. We're not going to send you anything. Shoutouts to you.
He did an episode not too long ago about Dynasty Warriors 9.
Yeah.
And the travesty that game was. And he pointed out that Koei Tecmo does their best work with Dynasty Warrior games when it's not their licenses.
Yeah. Hyrule Warriors.
Hyrule Warriors.
Fun. Dragon Quest Warriors looks like it's a blast. Dynasty Warriors Gundam, one of my... guilty pleasures is that series.
The Attack on Titan Dynasty Warriors style game, or even the Berserk one. All good games in their own right.
I heard the Fist of the North Star one was not great, but apparently a rare misstep in third-party Muso games.
Well, and it also depends if the actual company who's licensing gives a shit.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's one thing to shit in your own bed. It's another thing to shit in Nintendo's. Or in Bando Namkai. Bando Namkai, again, is like, something is happening in this room. I think it's just you. This studio is killing me slowly. Excellent.
The plan is coming to fruition.
Now begin the hiving.
But yeah, no. We've said before that Dynasty Warrior games are at their best when the Dynasty Warriors system is used for licenses that aren't Dynasty Warriors.
Where is Final Fantasy Muso already?
That's one I don't actually really want to see. Unless it's a Final Fantasy Tactics Muso.
I'd be okay with that.
And in fact, that's my ideal Final Fantasy Muso game, is one based off of Final Fantasy Tactics, the original.
What about a sequel?
I'd accept the sequel.
Because the director said he believes Ramza and Alma lived. So maybe they found the time portal and went to Evilus's future. And there's a whole new war to fight.
Or just survive because they're awesome.
Sure, no, I'm fine. But if they go to the future, they can read about the history books, and Agrius can see the horrible truth about Ovelia being killed by Delita, and then Delita survives and goes to the future too, and we can beat the shit out of that stupid pile of crap. Delita is human garbage.
Yeah.
The most hateful Final Fantasy villain. And Kefka poisoned the castle.
Poisoned the castle, destroyed the world. Once, almost did it twice.
I'd still rather hang out with him than Delita.
Yeah, but Delita, you just kick him in the nuts, push him off a cliff, and you're done. Kefka, you have to worry about him being in the same room as you.
Yeah, but he's honest. With Kefka, what I see is what I get. There's no bullshitting about actually giving a shit about me. Unlike Delita.
I guess. But yeah, no. Definitely a Muso game I would love to see is a tactics recreation, and then we can work on the sequel. Because I think that would just be good, honest fun. But I mean, there's a number of series that I could see having a Muso game that would be awesome. I mean, who would have thought that Zelda, the Zelda one, would be as good as it was, with its own original story that actually goes across timelines like kind of the Zelda Bible does.
No, I knew that game was going to be good when it was announced, because, again, I knew that the Muso games are at their best when they're licensed properties, and Nintendo is super as hell as strict when other people are handling their shit. So they were going to make damn well sure that game didn't play like trash.
I mean, I'm still thinking about picking up the version for Switch.
The definitive edition.
I'm just waiting for a price drop.
Yeah,
so I may be waiting a long time.
You will be waiting many, many annums.
Yeah, I know. I just don't want to hook back on my Wii U. I'm kind of done with it.
Yeah, I unhooked mine. I had a bit of a Mario Maker 1 itch before 2 came out. I scratched that itch, and now I'm finding a buyer for it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about selling off my Wii U, just not for what people think it's worth. They seem to think it's worth $20.
Yeah, fuck that. Fuck that.
Yeah.
If you're going to give me $20 for a Wii U, you better also give me a hand job.
And it's worth more than that. But I'm also surprised that Nintendo hasn't relaunched a couple of the games from the Wii U on Switch.
Give it time.
Oh, I'm sure given time they'll do it, but like the big ones are Twilight Princess and Wind Waker.
Yeah, that's funny because they got remakes on the fucking Wii U.
And honestly, I wouldn't rebuy them on Switch, but they should probably be there. I would even like to see, and I don't believe I'm going to say this.
Nah. I
wouldn't mind seeing Skyward Sword on Switch, seeing as you can abandon the motion controls. Yeah, I deserve that.
You can't see this, folks, but I just slowly flipped Dave off.
I mean, they can also... I guess I'd rather like to see a Skyward Sword Definitive Edition where they fix a number of that game's issues. I don't know if that's necessarily possible. The first fix would have to be muting fucking Fee.
The second fix would have to be retconning the game and not releasing it. Oh, if Nintendo ever had me make a Metroid sequel, the first thing it would be is Samus waking from the dream that was Metroid Other M. She'd wake and be like, "Oh God, oh that was a shitty dream I just had."
Is it wrong that... Okay, not Other M related here, but I'd also love to see Metroid Fusion.
Mm-hmm.
And get the Zero Mission, and Zero Mission both get releases for Switch in like at least Super NES quality.
Maybe Mercury Steam can remake them like they remade Metroid 2.
I would love that because that was an amazing game. I mean, its biggest flaw is it's non-Switch. I would love to see a Metroid package where you have each of those games.
Maybe get Capcom to do a Legacy collection, because they've been hitting it out of the park with those lately.
Yeah.
We got the Z and ZX Legacy collection coming soon as well.
Give it the way forward.
Sure. They want to give Mega Man 9 or X9 to Way Forward? Mega Man 9. Mega Man 12 or X9 to Way Forward? Giddy up, I'm up for that. I am all for that.
Except, is it bad that I want X9 to basically retcon 8, 7, and potentially 6?
No, fuck you. Axel's great.
Oh, no. That's the first retcon that has to happen.
No,
that annoying twit
fuck
gotta
you.
go.
Axel is fantastic. The
Axel
trio
is annoying.
You're annoying. The trio of X-Zero and Axel is second only to Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles in terms of gaming trios.
Gross.
None of these characters are great individually, but together, they work.
But Axel didn't.
You did.
9 was an awful game.
8.
8 was an awful game.
No, it was not. You're thinking of 7.
No, I'm pretty sure I'm remembering 8.
You're thinking of 7. 7 was the one with 3D elements. The one where some of the levels you actually ran around in 3D. It was the one where Axel sounded like a little kid.
Okay, maybe I am thinking 7.
8 is the one that it was, even though it was polygonal, it was 2D, except for 2 3D levels, which were easily the worst too. But the rest of the game was super good.
Wait, which one was the space elevator?
X8.
Okay. Okay, so maybe I remember X7.
Yeah, and there is no X9. You thought there was an X9, and that was it, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, there is no X9 yet. I'm hoping New York Comic Con will announce something. Once again, folks, we are recording on the Saturday of New York Comic Con 29. You know what? Hang on. Dave is opening a web browser. We're going to see if anything got announced today. Go for it, Dave. Yesterday, we got a RWBY Volume 7 trailer. You mentioned that you wanted to get into RWBY, and you haven't caught up yet, so I can't talk to you about it. There's a new Star Trek Picard trailer, and apparently the second season of Star Trek Discovery is in the far future.
Yeah.
After Next Gen. So Picard is probably going to even lead to that.
Snowpiercer TV series, Walking Dead.
DC's animated Wonder Woman Bloodlines. Oh, are we going to talk about Steven Universe Future? Or should we have an anime rave of that?
That'll be for an anime rave.
Gotcha.
By the way, the anime rave isn't dead.
Oh yeah, we were going to talk about that. It's not dead. I'm just a deadbeat. And I'm not... There are other things I'm worried about. But... since we actually have Patreon supporters, and I don't want to be one of those people who takes Patreon money and gives nothing.
Spoonie.
I'm thinking of leaving Patreon and going to something like Coffee or Ko-fi or whatever it's called, where people can do one-time stuff, which I think would be more fair. Let me know what y'all think of that. Not the second season of Discovery, the next season. Were there 2 already?
Yeah, the third season.
Okay. So yeah, but we talked about Star Trek Picard last time. I guess we'll watch the new trailer when we're done recording this.
Anything else to talk about?
I feel like we should... Man, we never have a good way to end these. Dave, do you have a knife around? We could have a knife fight. Why did I ask you for only one knife?
So, now that I've got my knife...
Okay, hang on. Let me arm myself. Let me just grab this rubbery dildo that you have hanging out for no reason. We're not actually a couple, folks. I don't know if anyone got that impression. There was one coworker we knew, a very lovely woman. She actually thought that Dave and I were a couple. And we had to explain to her that while, yes, Carlos is bisexual, Dave is straight, and they're just platonic, non-married life buddies who sometimes sound like an old married couple, but have never had their dicks in each other's assholes ever.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, that was funny.
Also, I don't think you're my type for a romantic relationship.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Probably.
But it was funny that she thought that, though. That was freaking hilarious.
Oh, I got a kick out of that.
Oh, man. Good times.
Ending off with a life story is actually a good way to end it.
Sure, why not? Folks, we are Carlos and Dave. This is Two Fat Guys Talk, the podcast. And we also have another show, Carlos and Dave Anime Rave. And you can find all of that on our website, animerave.xyz. You can also get there by going to twofatguystalk.com. Either URL works. And they will continue working even as I find a way to make our blog not a blogger blog. Which has worked for a surprisingly long amount of time, but I think we gotta move past that, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's time to evolve.
Yeah. Go there, support us, listen to our stuff. Look for our Patreon page, although I'm not sure how long that's going to be up. We might have to do a Ko-fi, whatever that thing is called. It's Kofi, which sounds like it should be Kofi after the rest are Kofi Kingston.
Yeah.
But anywho, listen to us. Comment. Let us know what you thought of what we talked about. If you have any voicemails, go to our site, leave us voicemails. That jazz. Farewell.
Adios.
As always, thank you for listening to Two Fat Guys Talk. The Sword vs. Moonrod art is by the talented Red Caliber. Links to her Twitter, her store, and her webpage can be found in the episode description. Music tracks used were Bit Bit Loop and Good Nightmare by Kevin MacLeod, found at freepd.com. Be sure to visit our site at animerave.xyz for more of this podcast, and for Carlos and Dave Anime Rave, the best anime review show on the internet. If you like what you heard and you can afford it, help keep us going by becoming a patron via the Patreon link on our site. If you can't afford it, no worries. Just spread the word.